Okay, thank you so much. I hope you had a great time watching my Mexican Bretzel. And I'm very glad to be back here and to talk with the director about the film. So hopefully you understand why we didn't really want to say too much about the film before, because the film is probably not what you think you're watching. The film is about truth and about lies, and it's very carefully constructed. So first of all, I'd like to maybe ask you a question about what I think is real, which is the footage. I think the footage is real, and it's a footage that you find yourself and their own movies from your family, which I also guess because of your last name. I know it's a detective work. So maybe you can talk a little bit about when you find the footage and in what shape was the footage, and how you developed the idea of turning this homemade movie into something completely different.
So when my grandfather died, who is actually Léon Barrett, we found in his basement a lot of 16 millimeters and 8 millimeters film reels. I went with my mom to Switzerland where he lived. We actually live in Spain, so I went together with her to, deal with the stuff you deal usually with when someone dies, and we found these film reels in the basement, and they had been there for 40 years. So yeah, I didn't know about their existence, but when I saw them, of course, like a film reel on itself as an object for me is really very attractive already. So I thought I already had the desire of doing something with them. I didn't know what, because of course I also didn't know what was inside or what shape it was in. So, and then we took it back to Barcelona. It was really heavy because it was 50 film reels. And then I started to digitize it to watch what was in them. And it was really very well preserved. Like the quality was amazing. And not only the content, but also the quality. I mean, it was very, very well in shape. No? So then I decided I wanted to do something with them, but I didn't know what. So I started playing really a bit with the images and watching them over and over again and trying different short things. And this helped me to build a relationship, not only with the images, but also with the characters. And on the other hand, at the same time when I started watching the images, I also started writing everything down that came into my mind, whatever. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do, so it was a kind of a game. It was funny, just like, a character could be this, or this could be a story, or this could be an idea, no? And then after 4 years of doing these two parallel processes, I started to read again what I had written, and I saw some ideas were coming up again and again, your obsessions, and I thought like you have to, include this in the film. However, I mean, try to find a way. And also the images at the beginning, I saw, the foreground, then the background, and at the end, the subtle things, the looks and the small gestures. And then they gave me a lot of information. Of course, it's my interpretation, but that's what what images are. I mean, you just, you can say it's this or that, you just interpret them. And then the funny part started, so I could just try to look for ways of bringing together images and text, part of the images and part of the text, of course, because I had to leave out a lot of things I would have loved to include, but then the film would be like 10 hours long, and I don't think that was a good idea. And that's it.
It's funny because when I was rewatching the film, I was wondering if you were more influenced by the images, or if you were starting with a text or storytelling. As directors, sometimes are more into like storytelling or writing, you know, like a script, and some are definitely more into images. And I was wondering, how you were mixing both, and what was the starting process? And I guess it's interesting to see that you were working on both at the same time.
Yeah, it was funny, maybe weird, because text and images at the beginning were completely unrelated. But for me, it was this ludic part of, you know, this kind of game. I could then try to find a way to put them together. And that was also very funny, because sometimes things happened, you know, like I was lucky sometimes. I thought, like, oh, this goes very well together, you know, without having thought of it. But yeah, it's I think I was finding out, I was discovering what I wanted to do while I was doing it. That might sound strange, but it was a long process, 7 years in total. So
it's crazy. But all the material was not dated in terms of like the reels. You didn't know what would go first. It was just like boxes of reels without any dates.
No, they were labeled. They were labeled, so I knew more or less the years, and in some of them they were like a city or a name or something. Yeah, in most of them, yeah. So I knew at least the year. But at the end, I really chose or selected the images that I found more fascinating, and then tried to make them look as I wanted them to look, in terms of chronologically, I mean. You know, like maybe at the beginning of the film when they are young, maybe I put images of, you know, like the 1963 instead of 1950. But no one noticed, of course. No, because there's also great color work made by Federico Del Pero, who has been in charge of this post-production image. And there are two different works in two different levels. One is giving homogeneity or uniformity to the images of different years or places. Sometimes I say this is Mallorca and it's not, you know, things like that. But you believe that it is. So this is one of the works. And the other one is like a chromatic evolution that is parallel to Vivian's feelings. State of, you know, like,
okay, so even geographically, it's not the truth.
Not always. I mean, there are some cases which are really clear. New York, of course, and Paris. In Barcelona, there are some images that are not from Barcelona. In Mallorca, a lot that are not from Mallorca, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was wondering sometimes. So once you constructed your film, in terms of the editing, how long did that take for you?
Like, I'd say 1.5 years on my own. And then I started to work together with another editor, who is Cristobal Fernandez. And he helped me a lot to let the film breathe. Because after I did my editing, I was in a festival, you know, like for projects which are not finished, but, you know, so that you can get some feedback. And they told me that the structure, etc., was okay, but there was too much text and too much of everything, you know, like try to let everything breathe, because there are 3 elements: text, image, and sound. So you really need to find a pace so that you can, the viewer can watch or be able to enjoy the 3 different parts. And what I did maybe was a bit too much.
You just mentioned the music, so I'd like to talk about the sound. The footage you have is all silent.
Yes.
At some point, sometimes it is silent when we watch the film. Sometimes there's sound effects. Sometimes there's music, different type of music, and I think it really makes the film really come together as a film. So, can you talk a little bit about the process for you in working with the sound?
Yeah, sure. Here I need to mention also Jonathan Dark, which is a great sound designer who helped me really a lot. I mean, who did the job. And what I was very clear about is that I didn't want to put ambient sound because that wasn't the thing I wanted to do. And I wanted to let some parts of the film in silence for many reasons. I think we are constantly overloaded by sounds and music. And on the other hand, since I didn't want to have a voiceover, sorry, then it also helped me to express the character's emotions. And also, because of this silence, the sound that is in the film becomes much more stronger or more powerful. So if I had put, for example, ambient sound the whole time, these sounds that are now would be weaker, I think so. So yeah, we were trying to find out with Jonathan, where the sound had to start, where it had to finish, and what type of sound it should be. And that wasn't easy. It was very enriching or funny in some way, but also hard work because it wasn't always obvious. And we tried a lot of different things, and he found amazing sounds, but sometimes it didn't fit, and we tried to find a rhythm. So you could enjoy the images in silence and then have some sounds expressing what's going on inside Vivian or Léon.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any, you made up the stories to fit your imagination and maybe some desire of building somebody's life. Was there anything that you could base your story on, or in terms of their life, or you didn't want to go in that direction at all?
I didn't want to go in that direction at all. Actually, that was the first decision I made, and for me it was really clear. I didn't want to talk about their lives, not because of anything, but first of all, I felt comfortable using their footage, and that might sound contradictory, but I didn't feel comfortable using their personal lives. Mm-hmm. And second of all, the process, I think it's much funnier, and there was total freedom for me, and I was building the characters from the text I had, but especially from the images. The images told me a lot of information. Again, my interpretation of it. Okay. And then there's also something, I think it's important, that if you try to stick into the facts, if I had made a, conventional documentary film about my grandfather, etc., I think I would lie anyway, for sure, because I would have relied on my mom's imagination or memories, but I would never have talked to my grandparents, who are the protagonists. So if I have to lie, then I have fun lying and, do it properly somehow.
Mm-hmm. No, that's also liberating on many ways, because it's liberating as a filmmaker also. And you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm going to upset the family, I shouldn't mention about the affair or this thing or the guru or anything like this. But it's funny because even so, they're all images that existed before, and the way you're building the movie and you're editing the movie, you could see a lot of influences in different films. I was thinking about the American Meadows of the 50s and the woman's film, or I'm also thinking about movies made with archival material that sometimes are more or less in different direction. You know, I've thought a lot about movies like Guy Madden, especially when you have the snow and this type of sound effect. So there was a lot of different things that were mixing to make your own particular style. So can you maybe talk a little bit about your personal influences or things that give you aspiration and things like this?
It's difficult because I've read a lot of books and watched a lot of films that I've enjoyed so much, and they've given me so much that I'm not aware of the references. Lots of people have told me different things they've seen, and it's wonderful, and I appreciate a lot, but I can't really think of, you know, like watching this or reading this and then work into a film. I think one of the beautiful things of creating something is that you are not aware, no, maybe of this process, and I just really did what I felt like. And this freedom is not something I found in other parts, no, of when I've been working in other things or whatever. So that was for me like a treasure and something sacred. So that was really what guided me. I don't know. But of course, everything I've watched and read is there, of course. I mean, sure. But I can't think of specific films or books that you could relate directly to the film. I think the viewers know better than me, because a lot of people have told me many different things, and some of them I've never watched. So,
well, when you see a rich lady with a coat on a boat, for me it's very like American melodrama. It's Betty Davis. It's, you know, it's like this type of images. That because I watch a lot of movies, and so I'm like, oh yeah, but it's. Have you shown the film to your family?
yeah, of course. I wouldn't have done it without my mother's permission. Sure. I mean, that was the first thing I asked her is, can I use this material? Because she's the daughter of them. So if she had told me no, I wouldn't have done anything. Or if she didn't want me to show it, I wouldn't have done it. I asked her again when I finished the film. I showed it to her, sure, and I asked her. And no, it was really funny, and I always tell this because I think it's very significant. She told me that the film was a more truthful portrayal of my grandparents than if I had told their true story. And for me, this was beautiful too, because somehow you can express a truth through a fiction, or yeah. You know, and that's also. And also, I didn't try to be realistic. You know, I didn't think anyone would believe anything. I didn't thought about it. I thought everything was completely unbelievable, you know, like Love Bean and the cliche of the guru and the whole story. I thought this, no one's gonna believe that. But then I saw everyone believe that. And the film, one of the topics of the film for me is also this, not the desire we have to believe in this magic pill, in the guru, in God, in the science, in a love, in a relationship. And then that happens with the film itself somehow, which was a surprise for me. But it was also beautiful to see that this desire to believe was also on the extra cinematographic part of the film.
Well, I mean, cinema in general, it makes you want to believe. That's the point of watching films. And this film particularly really plays with truth and lies, like all the time. But it's true, like I think the first time you watch the film, you see certain things in it. And why would I question like Lovedin? I was just like, oh, that sounds like a great antidepressant medicine. And the way it's built around, like, you know, they're like, oh, his friends don't believe in it, like, you know, like, there's enough details to make it look like it's very probable, and there's a lot of details like this that are written in a way that are extravagant. The guru is great. I mean, I was like, wow, but why is she following the guru like this? Yes, we go in that direction. But then it doesn't matter, because it's just like, it's cinema, so it could be true, it could be wrong, and I believe I want to believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's it. I think that's really beautiful. But for me, it was a surprise because I didn't make it with that intention. But it's true, I did some research because I was, when you start following a thread, I was interested in knowing the places I saw in the images, some of the cities or the hotels, how they were nowadays. And also, I did some research, for example, on antidepressants. And in the 50s, and Dexamyl existed actually. So that's why some of the things are true. The bombing of Schaffhausen also,
yes,
unfortunately, is true. And also the Le Mans, in France, this car race in 1955, there was this horrible accident where 80 people were killed. So these things were true. So yeah.
No, you put your little things in it enough. But also, it's something I mentioned, as like, I did rewatch the movie afterwards, and it really works. It works. Even if once you realize that what you first time thought was the truth, it's obviously not what you believed in, and you do question certain things, but the movie worked anyway because it's really beautifully constructed with the ways, yes, you mentioned the music comes in and out and change the rhythm, and I don't think it's detrimental to the film, not that knowing that it's not a true story, because otherwise we would never watch any movies other than strict documentaries if we always, well, it's not the truth, why would I watch that? So it really works. So
thank you very much. And yeah, there's always this question also about being it a documentary or not, because obviously the images are documentary, but the story is a fiction, so it has been a bit difficult sometimes to know where to classify it. But
do you have additional material that you're going to turn into another project?
I have there are 29 hours of material, and I've just put 1 hour and a quarter. So yeah, there are a lot of beautiful images I would have loved to include, and I couldn't. But for now, I need a break of this material, because I've watched these images so many times that now I think it's good to do something completely different. And maybe in the future, I was thinking of doing Léon's point of view, but maybe not.
No. It could be, then you can make a soap opera also.
I could do a trilogy with Léon too afterwards. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We were very glad to be able to show your film, and it was great talking to you about the film. Before we leave, I do have one final question. I don't know if it's a question other people ask, but what is a Mexican Bretzel?
Let's say the title is open to interpretation, and some people have seen that my Mexican Bretzel are the two loves of Vivian, Mexican representing Leo, and Bretzel because it's this Swiss-German Bretzel. I mean, the word is at least Swiss-German, would represent Léon. And that's an interpretation I also loved a lot. it wasn't meant to be that, but I prefer to leave it open to interpretation.
That's a great answer.
Sorry.
No, that's a good answer.
It's part of the film.
But I will study the design of the pretzel a little bit deeper now, because we have a knot, so you know, and the knot is the film. So, yeah,
Thanks a lot for everything.
For the next for the break and the next project. Thanks.
Thank you very much for having me too, and well, I hope we can meet someday personally in New York, hopefully.